Thank you so much, Michael, for that beautiful interpretation. Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Hendersonville and the Blue Ridge Mountains of western North Carolina, where the mountains embrace the sky, the waterfalls cleanse the soul, and the friendship warms the heart. Thank you. You are a remarkably warm and embracing fellowship, and I appreciate the many times you have sympathetically let me use our local landscape as a metaphor for the warmth of and love of this fellowship. Thank you. UUFH is an inclusive community of faith for all ages. We believe that revelation is ongoing. We covenant to support each other in a free and responsible quest for meaning and to bring our religious values to life in the world around us. We find ways to work together and to make the world a better place. I extend a special welcome for newcomers and first-time visitors. Please join us downstairs for coffee and conversation after the worship service. Cake. Oh, yes, that's right. And cake today, yes. We like to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. I don't think there are any announcements except for our distinguished guest, Ed Law, who will be offering a paid commercial. And these help support our fellowship.
Good morning, everybody. I am the communications team. For right now, there's not a lot of us. We have a few people that help us. So I'm here as member of the chair and the communications and outreach team. Per the governance policy, which everybody approved a year ago, this team seeks to coordinate, support, and enhance both the internal communications of UUFH, our email blast, and to the members and friends, and the external to our local community. That's our signs and activities we do, as well as within UU circles. Currently, the team includes volunteers such as the archivist, Chuck, bulletin board, which is Wanda, a membership team, and social justice, they do theirs. Tech support, which is Colby mainly. Library, which I think is Donna, I don't know if she's here, getting Eric. And newsletter, which is Wanda. Photography, which is everybody sees, has been Bill Elder doing that. And the audiovisual, which is Colby, myself, and Ron Parton. We're filling that. I'm here to ask for your help. So we're making some exciting plans. We want to refresh and update our website and enhancing appearance and content in our email and communications. We're exploring an electronic sign. Lee Majors is working diligently on that, so we can now show multiple messages for people driving on Canoga Road. We need additional team members to help us with these endeavors. People to research websites, look at other websites, other UU, other things. What do you like? What can we add to ours, change ours? So what appeals to you, and make recommendations to the team. We need more photographers. Bill's not here, going to be here every week, so we need help with that to help capture our community and our activities. I know every month Catherine Lynch does a visual for immigration. I don't think we have any pictures of that, recent ones. We have some old ones. So, I mean, things like that. I mean, Sunday's good at getting the kids when they do activities, but we know people are out in the community. You're doing your things. Do you have a shirt? Say who we are when you're out there. So let's do this. Let's make sure Hendersonville knows who we are and what our values are and what drives us. Let's make sure someone, when they do a Google search for a liberal or a progressive church, we come up. Right now we don't. So we need to fix that, and that's stuff we're working on. And help grow this community by helping us with the communications team. I'll be downstairs later for all you that want to volunteer. I have a sign-up sheet if you're interested. You don't have to be an expert, always just eyes and ears, what you see in the community, give us feedback. Thank you very much.
That was a good announcement, Ed. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome the Reverend Michael J.C. Carter. As the saying goes, he needs no introduction. Reverend Carter is a board-certified chaplain, retired, and an anti-racism diversity consultant. He currently serves as the minister of the UU congregation of the Shenandoah Valley in Black Mountain. It's always a homecoming of sorts for Michael when he speaks here. We know him as a member and current friend of our fellowship, and the father of Kevin Carter Long, a talented child whom we observed mature into a remarkable young woman. It is really good to have you with us this morning, Michael. And we appreciate the fact that you're basically a regular during the 22-23 season. Before Michael steps to the podium, let me mention at the outset that he will be exploring the topic of atheism in 3 sermons. The topic today is spirituality of the atheist. 2 weeks from now, on February 5, he will explore the extent to which atheism may be the wave of the future within Unitarian Universalism and related topics. And finally, on April 2, he will consider the particular case of the atheism of African Americans. So please mark your calendars now.
Well, Happy New Year. It's good to see you. I think 2023 is going to be an interesting year. So, buckle up. All righty. The chalice lighting. Yes, let's use the words of Brother Albert Schweitzer. He says, at times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. And so each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. And so with that being said, please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing our opening hymn this morning, Sound Over All Waters, hymn number 122, verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sound over all waters, reach out from all lands, the chorus of voices, the clasping of hands, rise hope of the ages, arise like the sun, all speech flow to music. Our responsive reading this morning, number 650, in the back of the gray hymnal, Cherish Your Doubts. This is written by Brother Robert T. Weston, who I had the good fortune of meeting many years ago. So we'll read this responsively. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth.
Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It is the servant of discovery.
A belief which may not be questioned blinds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief.
Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which keeps away the false.
Let no one fear for the truth, that doubt may consume it, for doubt is a testing of belief.
The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It is not shaken by the testing.
For truth, if it be truth, arises from each testing stronger and more secure.
Those that with silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands.
But those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on rock.
They shall walk in the light of growing knowledge, and the work of their hands shall endure.
Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help.
It is to the wise as the staff to the blind. Doubt is the attendant of truth.
Hear, hear. All righty. So I need to just put these in the thing here. Okay.
At this point in our service, we pause to reflect on the past weeks and the events and interactions that have shaped our lives. We recall the milestones, joys, concerns, sorrows, and folks who may need our healing thoughts. When we drop a stone into the bowl, we meaning Michael, the ripples expand outward into the world and touch us both metaphorically and virtually. I will read items that have been submitted in advance in writing to protect personal identities, and will then ask members of the congregation to raise their hands if they wish to offer a stone. This is a happy occasion. Wendell and Deanne are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. Unbelievable. And on top of everything else, look at the shirts they're sporting.
Married 60 years ago.
Yes, 60. And we have another happy occasion to celebrate. Brian is celebrating his 85th birthday. And there will be a cake downstairs to celebrate. And we can celebrate any anniversary or all occasions with that cake. And finally, Helen offers the following: a stone of joy for the year of the rabbit. Happy Lunar New Year. Are there any members here today who would like a stone offered? Quite a few.
And Chuck, I have apologies. If anyone went online, just for the joy or sorrow, I forgot to hold it.
And let's add one more stone, Michael, for the joys and concerns that are unspoken but yet remain in our hearts. Thank you.
All righty, gang. Please center yourselves. We'll have a time of quiet as usual after the meditation. Yes, thank you for dimming those lights. These words are from In the Holy Quiet, Meditations by Richard S. Gilbert. You may be tired of me using him, but I don't think you are. His words are eloquent and heartfelt. And please center yourselves as you see fit. Again, after the meditation, we'll have a time of silence. This is called Overwhelmed by Being. There are times when we feel overwhelmed by simply being. We are on a treadmill, walking hurriedly, going nowhere. The images of our lives fly past us as on a movie screen. The hands of the clock we see actually moving much too quickly. At such times, we need to gather ourselves together, to slacken our pace, to blank out the screen and ignore the clock. Then we can remind ourselves that we are in charge of our own lives. We who dictate the pace. We who choose to stop the rapidly moving screen. And we who set the rhythm of our own lives. It will not be easy. It is never easy to convert ourselves, to turn ourselves around, to get some kind of handle on the story of our own lives, to realize that we and we alone are the architect of our own fate. To be sure, there are powers and principalities that confront us. The demands on our time and energy are endless. We cannot fully control our environment. We are, after all, finite and flawed creatures. But out of that finitude comes a yearning for meaning. Out of the flawed nature of our being, we all yearn for a purpose. Out of the hectic rush of events, we can still set our own pace. We are the only ones who can. And now, in this brief moment, while our minds are one, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. Oh, I'm supposed to talk now. I thought, I get it mixed up with the church. I thought you were going to come up and say something. I got something to tell you, that doubts are the ants in the pants of faith. All right, let us do. So, listen, as Chuck said, today is going to be kind of an intro, spirituality of the atheists. For you atheists who don't like the word spirituality, just kind of get over it for the next 20 minutes. And I'll explain what I mean by it, because there's always one. Let me get that. Well, some good news, I think it's kind of good news, that There's been some Pew studies. There's one this morning that I read, but I skimmed over it because I was running a little late. And but they've been on social media for the past couple months that this nation, I always make it shorter than they say. They say 2035, 2040. But I think it's going to be sooner than that. That our nation will be predominantly people who are non-religious. No doubt our more conservative brothers and sisters may know this, and it probably raises some anxiety, especially since we're supposed to be a quote-unquote Christian nation. But there's some Pew studies being done. A lot of young people, I believe they said between the ages of 18 and 25, are just walking away from the church for the usual reasons, but mainly because they feel that the choices they're making in their life is not being supported. And we're talking about mainline denominations. Now, UUism has been flatlined. We flatlined years ago. Still 1,000 churches in, the United States and Canada. And I'm hoping that we will get the word out, especially as the country kind of drifts a little more towards, I'll use the F word, fascism, that people need to know that we exist. It bugs me, that we authoritarianism, but it's an F word, it's fascism. We dodged a bullet during the midterms, but there's miles to go before we sleep as it goes. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I want to define some terms. When I was living in New York City, it's a little more cosmopolitan, and so people got along for the most part, living in Manhattan, all races. We had to get along. It was 9 million people on this little island. And since I moved to the South, I've been here for, 15 years, but it still never ceases to amaze me. The response I hear from people when they hear that someone self-identifies as atheist. It's almost as if they have some type of virus you don't want to get, or even agnostic, that it's some disease, that they want to catch, as if you don't have morals or ethics. People who believe in a God seem to have more going on, if you will. And I just want to say at the outset, I am not an atheist. I'm not an atheist. But I'm glad we have atheists in our denomination, and we'll talk more in the weeks ahead. At one time in my life, I identified as atheist. And luckily for me, I had discovered Unitarian Universalism. Because, I just didn't want to hear, let me pray for you, child. And I didn't want to hear all that, because it was condescending. And now, I'll take prayers from pretty much anybody, as long as the intent is okay. But if it's like this hierarchy, like you're lost, then keep them. I don't really need them. So, I wanted to define some terms. And I'll tell you why I use the term spirituality. I'm not the only atheist who does. Even though I'm not. But maybe I will be at the end of the talk. I'm convincing myself more and more. Atheist, spirituality, and faith. An atheist is simply one who does not believe in the existence of a God or any other deity. It's pretty simple. Therefore, but for spirituality, it's like love. There may be as many definitions as there are people. So I like this definition that I heard from my therapist a long time ago. Spirituality is the cultivation of your inner life. And by that, he meant, and I mean, when you peel the onion, there are many ways to do it. You can walk in nature, you can meditate, you can read, you can study. But when you are finding your own set of ethics, your own set of conscience, your existential belief about why you're here, the lines that you won't cross, things that you will get up and stand up for, That's a spirituality. That's your inner life. You know, it's not just about if you see auras, which I do, or if you wear crystals. I have my crystals on, and I use them when I do energy work and that kind of thing. But that's an outward manifestation of those are tools, let's put it that way. But it's something that you are. It's not something you put on. It's yourself with the capital S. Does that make sense to you? Because that's beyond religion. That transcends it. So that's what I'm talking about. And so it also leads to an expanded lifestyle, if you will, because you become more, hopefully, in harmony with other sentient beings on the planet. One of the most famous atheists that we know of, the Dalai Lama, describes his spirituality, and that's the word he uses, as an inner mental and emotional strength and balance. He goes on to say, these are quotes, that this balance does not depend on religion, but it comes from our innate humanness as beings with a natural disposition, this is important, towards kindness, towards compassion, towards caring for others. Why that's important is because we're not Calvinists. This is what separates us from our more orthodox and conservative brothers and sisters in other denominations. We don't say, you know, when I saw my daughter being born, coming out of her mother's womb, I didn't say, oh my Lord, she's full of sin. Can we get the chaplain in here? Meanwhile, I was the chaplain. But we say that we're innate, that we are kind, that's in us. We're not born depraved people. And so there are those who say that spirituality and faith and atheism, and using humanism and atheism interconnected. Because some people, rather than say they're an atheist, they'll say that they're a humanist, which is not to be confused with people who are Christian humanists. And you know, words get in the way, but words are all we have. So let's talk about faith for a minute. Paul writes in the book of Hebrews that faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Dr. King says that faith is taking the first step without seeing the rest of the staircase. Using those definitions, we all have faith in something. So atheists do have a faith. We do have a faith. Being human on planet Earth, you got to have some faith just to get out of bed in the morning. So, and we're told in the book of Matthew and the book of Mark, and it's interesting when I bring up Bible verses, because when I got ordained and I became a UU, I learned that our congregations want you to know about the Bible. They just don't want you to talk about it. Want you to be educated. I got my master's degree. But anyway, but when I think of those verses, speaking of faith moving mountains, you know, I'm thinking about mountains of fear and prejudices and you know, not literally if I'm going to say this mountain move, maybe one day, but not soon. And so those are the mountains that we're trying to move as we go into the 21st century. So faith, for the atheist, if someone says, what do you have faith in? I have faith in my fellow human beings. We have faith in each other. And that takes courage, because people will let you down. Now, there are those who would say that to base one's decision on unseen evidence is where religion is the opiate of the masses. After all, science is at least based on some type of evidence. But you know, science can be religion. That's beyond the scope of this talk. But science can be, you know, I see it. I read about it all the time when we're discovering new things. And science is, the old Newtonian, Cartesian kind of way of looking at life. That train has left the station. We have quantum theory now. And there are people who still resist that. But this is it. This is it. So you may have your own definitions of faith, and no doubt they are valid. But it takes faith to get out of bed in the morning. Coming here, I had to have faith, and I went through a green light that the other person would stop. So we got faith. It was always faith in something. Oxford biologist, the late Oxford biologist Richard Dawkins, and the late writer Christopher Hitchens, who's the author of such works as The Trial of Henry Kissinger. Here's one for you. Missionary Position, Mother Teresa, in Theory and Practice. And of course, Brother Sam Harris, The End of Faith and a Letter to a Christian Nation, among others. They are correct when they say that religion has made a mess of things in the world. But it's not just religion. And so we remember, yes, we remember the Crusades, we remember slavery and genocide of First Nations people, and 9/11. Yet Dawkins suggested in his book, The God Delusion, that historical figures like Joe Stalin and Pol Pot, who committed heinous atrocities against other human beings, that they didn't do so because of their atheism. It was because of a lust for power and ambition and misguided self-supremacy. Now, if it sounds like apologetics, it could be, but people who believe in God did the same thing. A book by a French philosopher named Andre, oh God, I'm going to tear his name to pieces. His name is Andre. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. If you want to find it, he wrote a book called The Little Book of Atheist Spirituality. I Googled it this morning. I still couldn't pronounce it. But he is not as angry as a lot of atheists are at Christianity or religion in general. And we'll talk about that more next month in Atheism 2.0. But I'm just trying to set the table here. And he just says that we can do without God. But what we can't do without is community. What we can't do without is fidelity to one another. And religion provides that as well. But that's what we can't do without. And he says, Andre says that the only thing that separates him from most Christians is 3 days between Good Friday and Easter. Other than that, he doesn't have a problem. Wait till he hears about Christmas. The Reverend John Haynes Holmes, a Unitarian Universalist, the late John Haynes Holmes, who was a pacifist and an atheist, I was a member of that church in New York, said that religion is not necessary for moral life. But so does Pope Francis says the same thing. I'm surprised he's still alive. And as I said, although I'm not an atheist, I happen to agree. There's an African activist, and he identifies as a secular humanist. His name is Emmanuel Kofi Mensah. And he says that religion does have its positive side, but he refuses to say what it is. Yeah, I was looking because I wanted to use a quote, but yeah. But there's an old saying that nothing is always wrong. Even a stopped watch is right twice a day. And so we could go on and on and on. And yet for me, I am grateful for my atheistic brothers and sisters in our denomination and beyond. What I will discuss a little more, and maybe something for you to think about, is Unitarian Universalism a religion? I don't think we are. I think that we are a philosophy. Because if you're a religion, then atheists wouldn't be here. I mean, you don't have to go to Yale to figure it out. But it's like Buddhism. I mean, I hear people still refer to Buddhism as a religion, and it's a philosophy. Even the Dalai Lama will tell you this. But what atheists do, not just for our denomination, but for life in general, is they raise questions and challenge us to stay focused on what is going in the here and now, and not, in the by and by with golden streets and, whatever, the harp playing and that kind of thing. The atheist keeps us from being so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good. They remind us to stay in the present moment because this is all we have. And as writer Alice Walker reminds us, we are the ones who we have been waiting for. There's not going to be any gods. There's no need for gods or saviors or benevolent extraterrestrials from beyond to solve our problems. Because we are evolving as a species, there is no fall to be saved from. It takes a certain, to me anyway, it takes a certain degree of courage to live this way. To believe that when I close my eyes, that is it. You know, there's no tunnel that I go down and go to the light, and it's over. And so to place one's faith, if you will, and I'm talking about people who have near-death experiences, and come back and tell you about it. To place one's faith in another human being who will hopefully reach out and take your hand to make this a better world, that takes a lot of faith. But you got to have a vision, right? The Proverbs tells us where there is no vision, the people perish. And atheism keeps us focused on the here and now. Attempting to build a better world requires vision and foresight. There was a crop of books on the market a few years back. I know because I buy them like they're going out of style. A perspective on religion coming from religious leaders that had nothing to do with religion. One of those books was Jesus for the Non-Religious, one called Eternal Life, A New Vision Beyond Religion, Theism, and Beyond Heaven and Hell, by the late Bishop John Shelby Spong. Have you ever read any of his work? Yeah. He used to speak over here when he was in town sometimes. Found a large readership. He writes in his book, Eternal Life, and I found this to be very intriguing, that religion, truth is not religion's ultimate agenda. That's not what religion is about, according to Spong. Security is. Because we're all going to die, right? Right? Nobody leaves here alive. And that enough makes you want to hold hands and sing some songs together, don't you think? That's it. You're here, you can't get out. And so he goes on to posit that the security is needed because of one's fear of death. The Dalai Lama again. His one, he had a book called Beyond Religion, which didn't do so badly in the bookstores. And again, there are schools of Buddhism that recognize deities, but not a creator. Not a creator. Because it's the whole cause and effect dependent origination. You know, you go back, if cause has an effect, then if it's a God, who created God? And then who created that? You know, it's succinct and logical. But in this work, His Holiness says, this book may seem strange. It's called Ethics for a New Millennium. Coming from someone who has lived as a monk all of his life. But he says, I see no contradiction here. My faith, his words, enjoins me to strive for the welfare and benefit of all sentient beings and reaching out beyond my own tradition to those of other religions is in lockstep in what I believe. He says, I'm confident that it is possible and worthwhile to attempt a new secular approach to universal ethics. Now, you have to be careful who you talk like this to, because evangelicals, they think it's a one-world religion, and it's antichrist, and it's a mess. But we do need that, I think. A universal secular ethics. When people complain to me, who say, well, what do you believe in? And I tell them about the 8 principles. Back then, it was the 7 principles. And they couldn't wrap their minds around it because it wasn't churchy enough. It wasn't religious enough. And they would say, well, this sounds like something the UN put together. And I said, yeah, that's it. So you know, it gets people a little nervous. But what the Dalai Lama is saying, isn't that our philosophy as Unitarian Universalists? That we will work with people to you know, they don't have to believe what we believe, love beyond belief. So Spong and His Holiness are attempting to reach out to all human beings, whether they are atheists, whether they don't give a you-know-what, whether they are goddess worshipers or other variants of non-theism. So atheism, to my mind, is saying that we human beings must take responsibility for our lives and the lives of this planet. For those people who believe in a creator and a God, fine. But it does raise questions, because if we really believe what we said we believe, we wouldn't be killing each other like this. We wouldn't be treating each other like this. We need a secular ethic. It's not about heaven or hell or life after death, even those things are out there. But it's not a question of relying on religious teachings. Although religious teachings, I got a caveat here, there's a message of love there. There's a message of compassion. But we need a secular ethic to transcend religion. Something where all 9 billion people can kind of feel comfortable with, and it can be done. It can be done. I want you to remember this saying from Howard Thurman, who was Dr. King's mentor. He says that any truth found in religion is in the religion because it's true. It's not true simply because it's found in the religion. People forget that. Any truth found in religion is there because it's true. But it's not true just because it's found in the religion. The late UU minister Ken Patton puts it this way. He was an atheist, but he used the word humanism. He says, I have referred to my religion as humanism and naturalism. Is that Brother Patton calling? I bet I'm going to get it right. Reverend Patton says, but it is better defined in terms of how it is conceived. In other words, he says, I believe in humanity and nature rather than God and supernature. But he says, I want to talk about how I believe rather than what I believe. Because otherwise, it just gets about who needs to be right. Right? And you can find a lot of inner peace once you give up being right. Try it. It's hard. But I can't tell you, these last 5-8 years of my life, I just won't argue with people about, I'm too old for it now. I'll be dead in 25, 30 years. Who knows, maybe sooner than that. So I'm real intentional about how and who I spend my energy with and what I put my energy on. Because there's some people who, they want to argue. And if you don't argue with them, they don't like it because they want to be right. The atheist reminds us that there's nothing more inspiring than a life that is well lived. And this is true whether you are religious or not. I know for me, I like to keep books or artwork or biographies that stimulate me, because to me, there is nothing more important or more inspiring than a life that is well lived. These people can be like my role models. So you want to keep those things close to you. I like art, I like literature, I like music, I like scotch. Anything that will keep me inspired. It makes our little lives a little larger. And then we don't stay behind these walls that separate us. Atheism and humanism entails a belief in reason, in science and democracy, and openness to new ideas, the cultivation of moral excellence. Plus, if we're going to talk about diversity, diversity is not just skin color. One aspect of diversity is plurality of thought, that I can entertain other people's ideas without wanting to choke them. You see? And so it's a belief in the inherent worth and dignity of humanity. So whether you may be a religious or secular person or an atheist, humanity and not divinity is the primary concern of atheism. We are responsible for our own lives. You hear it every day. You see it, Shakespeare, right? The fault, Brutus, is not in the stars. It's in ourselves. We cannot blame it on anything else. And so the atheist says that spirituality is found most in using the human intellect and using our creativity to build beauty and peace, whether it's ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, the Renaissance, European Age of Enlightenment, wherever you get your inspiration from. Faith and spirituality can be found. George Orwell suggested that his experience of human beings is that our moral failure lies in the frailty of our vision. We don't know how powerful we are. We don't believe that. And part of that is because of religion, telling you you're not worthy. And if this guy didn't get beat up and die on a Roman cross and rise again, you don't deserve any of the good. And so how can you aspire to anything good when you're constantly told that you're not worthy of it? And so I don't want to knock that. I grew up in the African American Baptist church, and so there's a beauty there in the Bible and that there is there. But somehow the message got lost. And so you can't rise up when you're being told that you don't deserve the good that comes into your life. And so I don't want to over-romanticize it, but there's a certain majesty in being a human being. There is, even though we do things to each other that they're criminal, but we also do things to each other that transcend, that can be the very definition of love. Alan Watts reminds us that religion, true religion, is about turning anxiety into laughter, because there's the existential angst that we're all going to die. Let's tell some jokes. Let's sing some songs. Now, you may not believe or agree with what I'm saying. Hamlet, Shakespeare says there's a divinity that shapes our ends, and an atheist may say, no, that's not it. You may choose other words. But most assuredly, you would agree with the statement that there is a humanity that shapes our ends. And so, until next time, I'll leave it there. But to my mind, this is the faith and the spirituality of the atheist. Okay? Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Thank you. I'm talking myself into this each time I do this. I mean, to my Christian friends, I'm an atheist anyway, because I don't believe the way they do. So, this is good, and we'll get more into it. My favorite philosopher, William James, says that the greatest use of life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. And so now we're going to take up the offering. Thank you. I guess y'all got it out there? Okay. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Dedication to the offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our offerings and the best of who we are. Please rise now in body or spirit for the singing of our congregational hymn, number 34, Though I Speak with Bravest Fire. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Before the playing of the postlude, you may be seated. I'd like to thank all those who helped with the service today. Our wonderful friend and visiting minister, Michael. Our extraordinary pianist, Michael Jeffrey. Our AV tech, Ed Law. Ed is I can't see who that person is, but, well, thank you. Ed is the quintessential all-purpose UU. There isn't a job in this fellowship that Ed has not done or will not do in the future. He actually may be entering seminary next year. And finally, you, a loving and enthusiastic congregation.
And the beautiful flowers.
Thank you. Go in peace and enjoy some cake.